The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, requires each state to develop a State Performance Plan, Annual Performance Report, or SPP-APR, that evaluates the state's efforts to implement the requirements and purposes of the IDEA and describes how the state will improve its special education implementation. The SPP-APR will include indicators that measure child and family outcomes and other indicators that measure compliance with the requirements of IDEA. The indicators in Part B of IDEA will fall into three monitoring priority areas. 1. Provision of FAPE, or free and appropriate public education, in the least restrictive environment, or LRE. 2. State exercise of general supervision, including child fine, effective monitoring, the use of resolution meetings, mediation, and system of transition services. 3. Disproportionate representation of racial and ethnic groups in special education and related services to the extent the representation is the result of inappropriate identification. The South Carolina Office of Special Education Services must set targets on the indicators that involve student performance. We have a series of recorded presentations in order to get stakeholder feedback on the proposed targets. Indicator 2 is about dropout rate, which is the percent of youth with IEPs dropping out of high school. The State Performance Plan requires us to set what they refer to as targets and what we think of as our goals. Just like IEP goals, targets need to be rigorous yet attainable. If we were to create a SMART goal, like the goals required in IEPs, the goal would read something similar to, by the end of the school year 2025, South Carolina will have a graduation rate for students with disabilities of 18.63%, as measured by the EDFACS report. The post-secondary outcomes group will have goals related to meeting this target that is updated yearly and discussed later in this presentation. Indicator 2 changes include the following. Dropout rate goals were set to align with graduation rate goals. The dropout rate accounts for 9% of students who may not make their four-year graduation cohort, but re-enroll to continue working towards their graduation or credential. Through the first year, the target is set high. This works off the previous year's actual dropout rate and will help buffer the possible effects of the pandemic. The overall 6-year goal is rigorous. Post-secondary outcome focus group related goal states, in order to further LEA capacity to increase career development, student skills, and CTE enrollment collaboration for students with disabilities, the PSO team will provide resources and support that will assist LEAs with implementing high-leverage, evidence-based, equitable practices that address post-secondary outcome needs. In order to monitor the progress, much like monitoring of IEP goals, we will use a variety of data points to monitor the progress of the goal, such as dropout rates, graduation, Indicator 14 survey results, SWD and CTE enrollment, task data, SC-ABLE data, interagency data. We will also use benchmarks that are completed in the SOTA implementation manual. The PSO will use varied activities, such as building learning management system modules for CTE collaboration, South Carolina High School credential, transition best practices, and Indicator 13 compliance and Indicator 14 compliance, inform LEA and SOP of PSO implementation guide, and assist LEA SOP in setting up graduation teams, utilizing TASK to help LEA and SOP implement best practices defined by the PSO essential program components as determined by the school graduation team. Build interagency relationships to establish strategies, trainings, and initiatives related to PSO goals. These will support LEAs in achieving the long-term goal of increasing graduation rates. Stakeholder feedback will be considered in embedding additional activities.